Hi there, I'm Dave Rosendahl from Mindfire, and for a few moments today I want to talk to you about creating award-winning integrated marketing campaigns. The key question we're going to try to answer here is, how do you build a successful cross-media campaign? What are some of the things you can do that have been used by successful campaigns and organizations around the world to build a successful campaign? What are some of the things that they do that you can also do to get you closer to success? Now, the data we're going to be looking at today comes from all over the world, organizations large and small, and from over 22,000 campaigns that we at Mindfire are blessed with the opportunity to look at. So I'm going to cover 5 key areas today with you that we feel will help you build a more successful cross-media campaign. So let's jump in. Number 1, the first place you need to think when building a cross-media campaign is that it all starts with a plan. In other words, you really need to be clear around what are you trying to do. Your clients are going to be asking for ideas and input on how to improve response rates and how to improve their ROI. So you really need to be clear around how you're going to do that. And the best way that we've seen about doing that is setting clear objectives. And by setting a clear objective or set of objectives for your campaign, you can help guide the conversations and the strategy and the tactics that then come out of your conversations with your client to really be able to achieve the success that they're looking for. Now, in order to do this, you really have to have and you have to implement a process that is repeatable to give you the types of results that your clients are looking for. So here's an example on the screen. This is something that a partner shared with us. It's their process, 9-step process, for achieving cross-media success. And what this process articulates is, from the very beginning here in the upper left-hand corner, it sets out by looking at the marketing objectives and strategy for the particular campaign. So again, very important to make sure that you understand those marketing objectives and the strategies that you are going to use for the campaign. And as you can see from this process that has been shared with us here, it's got a series of steps, each of which build upon the prior to really help you get to a very clear and specific objective. So I suggest you take a look at this and see if this can help you in your organization to create more successful campaigns. Now, the thought that I want to leave you here with is that even having half a plan or half a process, it doesn't even need to necessarily be documented like the one we just saw, but even having half a plan really beats no plan at all. The key is you want to get crystal clear on your objectives. You really want to get clear around what you're trying to do. Now, maybe someone should have told Turkish Airlines here to think about their plan and their process a little bit more carefully before they created this campaign. It looks like it's headed in the wrong direction there, but maybe after watching this and thinking about today's material, you can give them a shout and help them out with this. All right, so now the next thing you need to think about, you've got your plan, you've got some clear objectives, you need to think about your data. Now, we all know the adage, garbage in, garbage out. We all know it's very important to have good data, but that's not always easy, right? It's not easy to have and maintain good data for yourself or for your clients. So what we suggest is that you develop a discipline and invest the time in ensuring that at least incrementally you are always improving the quality of your data. So here's one takeaway. Here's one thing to think about. As you look at your data, whether it be for you or your client, think about how can you, a step at a time, improve the quality of that data. For example, how about ensuring that you have valid email addresses for the records, for the contacts in your data file? The reason I mention email is because email, we have seen, and our clients see this day in and day out, can boost response rates, in some cases dramatically and very cost effectively, when used in conjunction with things like direct mail. So you don't have to think about data quality as some large, very difficult endeavor. You can start small and maybe start somewhere with things like email, for example, ensuring that you have good email addresses, because that quality email address can significantly improve your cross-media campaign. All right, number 3, So now that you have your target audience in mind, you've got your data in mind, you need to think about then how are you going to communicate to that target audience? What are you going to say to them? Obviously, relevance is king. What you say to her is going to be different than what you say to him, obviously, right? Now, the best way to do this is by thinking about the different groups of individuals that are within your data, whether it be for your organization or for your client and their campaign. The principle is the same. And so one technique for doing that is using what's called a persona. Now, a persona is the idea of personifying a group of individuals from within your data file and giving them a name and some attributes, things like what they do in their free time, where they went to school, how many kids they have, things that maybe are hobbies or are related in some way to their area of interest, and actually creating, as you can see here on the screen, not only a picture of what that persona looks like, but also filling in a series of relevant details about that persona. So this persona here, Pam, represents a number of individuals in the data file that have similar characteristics, whereas Jane represents another group of individuals. So this process, the process of creating a persona, is something that you can do for not only your own campaigns, but for your clients as well, to really help you get a sense for the different types of individuals in your data file and the messaging and content that will resonate with them. Now, I've had multiple partners share with us that this tip, using personas, has been one of the most successful things that they've learned over the course of the past 18 months. And not only is it helpful to them, but it's also something that they have found allows them to charge and bill their clients for the strategy and the thinking that goes into creating a campaign. Here's what I mean. I had a partner share with me that, you know what, Dave, we use these personas, but not only do we put them up on the screen like I've done here, but they've taken it a step further and borrowed a page from the agency playbook. What they do is they take each of these personas and they print them out on cardboard, probably about 3 feet wide and 3 feet tall, and they put each of those personas on an easel. And so let's imagine they have 4 easels around the room with 4 cardboard cutouts for each of the personas on each of those easels, and they cover each easel with a drape, kind of like a curtain. And so what they do is they invite their client in, and in the strategy session that they have with those clients, they will actually go one by one to each of those personas and unveil each persona and begin discussing it with their client. And what I hear from folks is that the impression that that makes, the impression that it makes upon their client and everyone in the room is quite dramatic. And it really quantifies and solidifies the different target audiences and the work that you have done really to think about each of those. And it demonstrates to your client how you're thinking about creating messaging and content that's specific to each of those personas. So there's a tip. Think about how you might be able to use that in your next client engagement to really add more value and to show your client that you're thinking about their data in a way that's going to make them more successful. So use personas. Think about how you can use them to create compelling and creative content. Maybe use the tip there from the agency playbook and think about how you can use those and actually print them out and put them around your conference room and use them as props within your client presentations. All right, so you've thought about how to use personas. You've thought about how to use those for targeting messaging. Now you also need to think about how you can use those to target the offers or the offer that you will be making. What kind of offer will motivate each of those personas to respond? Obviously, what works for Grandma doesn't work for Justin, right? You need to think about the offer that's going to resonate most. One of the questions that we get often is, hey, Dave, guys, what kind of offer resonates most with this audience in an automotive vertical or in a financial services vertical? That's a pretty common question. I bet you've thought about that yourself before. Here's some interesting data that will help you answer that question, at least help you think about it a little bit differently. Here's a study that was done by IDG Connect and Marketing Sherpa. And what they looked at is what type of offer would increase the likelihood that a prospective buyer clicks in an email. So this happened to be an offer that was made through email. So here on the right-hand side are a series of offers, and here is the likelihood that the prospective buyer would click on that offer. Now what's fascinating about this study is that on the left-hand side they've contrasted what the marketer, what you and I may think resonates with the target audience. So here's what I'm saying. If you look here on the marketer side, they felt, 92% of them felt that educational content would be the #1 thing that would resonate with a prospective buyer. Whereas prospective buyers said that that's actually 4th on their list. And the prospective buyers felt that news and articles, 84% of them felt that news and articles would resonate the most with them, whereas marketers had that listed as 6th on their list. So here's the point I'm trying to make. You need to test and challenge your assumptions and maybe even your client's assumptions around the offer that you're thinking of for your campaign, because you know what? You may think you know what resonates, but as this study illustrated a moment ago, you may not know. That you think may work may actually not work, and things that you think may not work may actually work very well. So the point here is test and challenge those assumptions to arrive at something that you can empirically support as an offer that resonates with the appropriate target audience. Okay, so now you've got your offer and your messaging targeted to the persona based on the good data that you have in hand, and you need to think about next, how are you going to reach out and touch these individuals? We have so many channels available to us today as marketers to reach consumers. A study recently showed that the average consumer, the average individual, has 7.2 channels where we can reach them. So that's things like their cell phone, their home phone, their email, their work email, SMS, Skype, Facebook, Twitter. There are all these channels that we can reach folks on. But what's interesting is that these channels all behave a little bit differently, and they all serve a slightly different purpose in the way they operate. Now, just in time for Valentine's Day, which was just about a week and a half ago, a company, a partner of ours called Exact Target, released a study called The Social Breakup. And what they looked at are these channels, email, Facebook, and Twitter. And here's some interesting data that I want to share with you that you should keep in mind when designing your next campaign. 91% of individuals in this study had recently unsubscribed from opt-in emails, from emails that they had previously opted into. And 77% said they were more cautious about providing their email address versus last year. So this is a change compared to last year. With Facebook, 81% said that they had unliked or removed a brand's post from their message stream, and 71% said that they are more selective in liking a company versus last year. Similarly, in Twitter, 41% have unfollowed a company recently. So here's the point. Folks, consumers, and business users are breaking away or pulling away in some of these channels for a variety of reasons. But one of the most prevalent reasons is because of poor or weak messaging, which we've talked about already today. The trends are changing in each of these channels, so you need to be very aware of these sorts of trends so that you can effectively craft a strategy that leverages each channel and optimizes its strength. One of the mistakes that we often see is that folks will take a strategy or a tactic that may work well in direct mail and try to carbon copy that and use that in an email or on a landing page. I see this even sometimes with creative. They take the creative from a direct mail piece and try to use it directly on a landing page or within an email. Well, you know what? That doesn't work. That doesn't always necessarily work. So you can't take what works in direct mail, carbon copy it for a landing page or for an email, carbon copy that and then try to use that in Twitter or try to use that in Facebook. That may not necessarily work. You need to take the strengths of each channel, leverage each of their respective strengths to maximize the opportunity you have to reach that individual. So think about these trends and think about how you can apply these in your next campaign. Okay, so now let's imagine your campaign is live. Let's look at tip number 5 now. So tip number 5 assumes that your campaign is live. Obviously, you now need to follow up with the leads that are pouring in from your successful campaign. But the point I want to make here is that it's not just the act of following up that's important, but it's how quickly you follow up that's of paramount importance. Here's a question that a company called leadresponsemanagement.org recently analyzed. They said, all right, how quickly should companies call web-generated leads, leads that are generated from landing pages or microsites, for optimal contact and qualification ratio? So contact is the idea of just reaching someone on the phone, whereas qualification is the idea of not only reaching them on the phone, but also having a qualifying conversation with them, one where you start to get into their needs and wants and make an assessment. Well, here's what they found. The odds, if a lead is called in 30 minutes versus 5 minutes, of contacting goes down 100 times. So if you wait 30 minutes versus 5 minutes or less, your odds will go down 100 times in terms of contacting that lead. Similarly, the odds if called in 30 minutes versus 5 minutes of qualifying that lead goes down 21 times. So the point is here, you need to think about how quickly are you following up on leads, how quickly is your client following up on the leads that you generate for them, because that speed is of paramount importance to the success of the campaign. So taking this and leveraging this data in your next client engagement is going to give you an edge, because the quicker those clients of yours are following up on leads, the better the chance they have of not only contacting but also qualifying those individuals. So the tip that I want to share with you here is don't F up, don't screw up, and neglect to follow up. So obviously you need to follow up, but you need to have a process in place to do that in a way that's time efficient, that takes advantage of this 5 minutes or less. I know that may be difficult for some, but it's just dramatic, the impact that that will have. All right, so now I want to ask you a question. Think about this. Imagine that you have a microsite or a landing page that has a survey on it that has 39 survey questions, where those 39 can branch out to 75 questions. You've probably seen these surveys where, depending on how you answer a question, a series of additional questions pop up based on your answer. So the question I want to ask you was, what kind of conversion rate would you expect? Now let me define conversion. Conversion is the idea of, or the ratio of, the individuals who visit a landing page compared to the number that complete the call to action. So in this case, if you had 100 people visit the survey, the question is, how many do you expect would actually complete the survey? That's the conversion. How many do you expect would complete the survey given the scenario I have listed here? Now you probably know our best practice is 5 to 7 questions on a survey. You want to make sure that someone can go through that relatively quickly. So I'm asking you a question here vis-a-vis the 5 to 7 best practice number of questions that we talk about often. So what do you think? Less than 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 75, or more than 75%? So if you answer A, less than 25%, what you're saying is, Dave, out of the 100 people who visit the landing page, I think that 25 or less will actually complete the 39 survey questions that could branch to 75. So give yourself a moment to think about that. Well, here's the answer. 88% conversion. This is a real live campaign that had a visit rate of 15.85 and a response rate of 13.94. The way you calculate the conversion rate is by taking this response rate, the 13.94, and dividing it by 15.85, and you'll get roughly 88, which means that out of 100 people who visit, 88 will come out the other end having completed the survey. So what's the point I'm trying to make here? The point that I'm trying to make, here's why I asked the question. What may seem counterintuitive, for example, the answer that you see here, what may seem counterintuitive is something that in many cases you should test. Don't assume. Let's never assume that because we feel something may be right that in fact it's right. The tips and tricks and best practices that I've shared with you today are things that we've accumulated over the years and things that we've recently learned and seen from our clients throughout the world. But they aren't necessarily the 10 commandments of cross-media per se. what we are trying to do in many cases, and what you have the power to do, is create something new. In many cases, things that haven't been done before. So the point here is that I encourage you to think about the best practices and tips that we've discussed, and think about how you can apply those in ways that maybe are new or are different than what I've shared here. And I encourage you to think outside the box. This example that I have here on the screen is a great example of how something that may not appear to work on the surface actually has tremendous results. So I'm sharing my contact information here on the screen, as well as my partner Joe Manos here at Mindfire. Also, you can visit our website for more case studies that articulate data just like that I've shared with you today. Hopefully it will be of help to you. You can email either one of us or follow us on Twitter at @JEManos or @DaveRosendahl, as noted here. And we'd love to answer your questions and hear from you if there's anything else we can help you with. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me today, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.